Everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Panel B podcast. Steve Buchanan with my co-host Julian Edlow, getting you set for week 13 of the NFL season. Also a notable week for best balls. Best ball is starting to advance to the next round. Yeah, big news there, Julian. Best ball starting to advance to the second round after this week on DraftKings. So if you did some best ball lineups, this is the final week for you to try to advance to round 2. So keep an eye on those best ball lineups as well. But we are here to get you set for all the betting angles for week 13 of the NFL. Julian's going to get you some college basketball stuff we're going to get into, some team futures that we're talking about this week as well. So lots to get to. Nobody cares about a fluffy intro, so let's just get right into it. We're going to start right off the bat with my favorite bet of the week. And this is the line, Julian, that I kind of confused about because of everything that's happened with this team. The Colts minus 3.5 going against the Texans. This line just feels way too low for me. Colts are 6-4 against the spread as favorites. The Texans have been one of the worst teams against the spread overall. They're 2-5 against the spread as underdogs. And look at all the things that just transpired over the past week. They just lost their top receiver in Will Fuller, who, by the way, was second in the overall target share of 21.5%, trailing only Brandon Cooks, who's going to get a major boost here. He was already leading at 22.3%. Fuller was first in red zone targets at 16%. And then they lost their top corner in Bradley Roby. He's gone now. According to Pro Football Focus, he was 17th overall ranked in coverage, allowed just a 62% catch rate on 37 targets, 10 yards per reception. He was one of their main shadow guys, shadowing the top receivers on the other side. And then after all of that, now they're going to have to deal with a Colts pass rush that's been decent pretty much throughout the season, but you know, Watson's been in the top 10 for most pressure on his dropbacks, 34%, which ranks 8th in the league. Put all that together. How do you not love the Colts at minus 3.5 in this game?
Yeah, it's going to be a public spot, and with good reason. Doesn't mean it's a bad spot. It's not a huge spread to cover. It opened at 2.5. So right. That line kind of stinks. It makes sense why it's gone up over the field goal. Fuller is huge, like
massive.
After Hopkins, you know, Fuller was capable, if healthy, of stepping in as like a wide receiver 1. He did a pretty good job. You know, Cooks, obviously from a fantasy perspective, he's going to get a lot of deep shots. He has to.
Was already, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. After the coaching change, Cooks was getting a lot more volume. Now he just has to step up because behind him, it's like Kiki Kute and Isaiah Coulter. One of my Rhode Island Rams there, 5th round draft pick.
Here we go.
Speed guy, watch out. He'll get some deep looks. It's impossible to back the Texans in this one.
Right.
They've won and covered 2 straight. So, you know, maybe that's reason for a little bit of love. Deshaun Watson is playing really well, but Will Fuller was a huge part of that. It's a Colts or nothing spot. It makes a ton of sense why you would want to bet on the Colts. The Texans, if they were at full strength, maybe picking up that momentum, this line makes a little bit of sense. But given the losses, top receiver, top corner, impossible to back them at this point. Like, honestly, the best bet, and both of us were on it last week, was Saints minus 6.5. Reacting to news. So, like, just sitting back and reacting to news, even for maybe it's player props sometimes, maybe it's getting a spread or a money line right before some big line movement. Those are the NFL best bets at this stage of the season for the remainder of the season. So keep that in mind. That's why you want to follow along. However, I have a job to do, and that's to give some plays on the board on Sunday. I was on the wrong side of the Patriots 2 weeks in a row. I faded them against Baltimore. They won that game. Right. I then backed them against the Texans, and the Texans won that game. I stayed away on Sunday, but if you made me bet that game, I would have taken Arizona in a pick'em.
Right.
They get out of there with an ugly win. This week, I'm going to take the Patriots in a pick'em minus 107 money line at the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, God.
Now, a lot of people like the Chargers because they cover spreads, but they don't win games.
Well, you know why they don't win games? Just watch the last 2 minutes the last week. That's why they don't win games. Go ahead.
Right. But that's valuable. Going against a bad coach is valuable. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking arguably the biggest coaching mismatch of the season in Bill Belichick versus Anthony Lynn. I don't care about the players on the field. If the Patriots can win that game against Arizona, even though it's at home, with Cam Newton having 2 turnovers, 80 passing yards, the offense did nothing, and they won that game.
Right.
Then they can beat this terribly coached Chargers team. That was Bill Belichick beating Cliff Kingsbury, basically.
Right. And
the Chargers are even worse coached than the Cardinals. So this isn't a big play. This isn't, like the Saints last week or anything like that. But I think the Patriots have an advantage here, and the advantage might be even bigger in game because we know the Chargers get off to fast starts. Patriots are going to feel out games. Maybe the Chargers are up a touchdown at halftime. Anthony Lynn's not going to make any adjustments. Bill Belichick will. So maybe you take Pat's second half, play the game small to begin with, and get your second half bet in for the rest of it. I just think that at this stage of the season, I want to bet on Bill Belichick against Anthony Lynn.
Okay, so let me throw this at you then, because I think this matters. Cam Newton was limited in practice on Wednesday with that abdomen injury. Do you feel that strong if it's Jarrett Stidham? Because at this point, Cam Newton had historically one of the worst games last week. Okay. He got absolutely wrecked. He took a legitimate shot. Like I'm not surprised if that's a legitimate injury, but there could be, because quite frankly, the Patriots aren't going anywhere. They're probably not making the playoffs. There's legitimate reason to at least see what you have with Jarrett Stidham. I'm not for the move. I guess it's just whatever for me. Stidham, from everything we saw, he's been a disaster. But are you changing your course here if it's Stidham at under center? Because it can't get any worse than what we saw last week with Cam Newton. But I would say if I am going to win a game, if I'm going to back the quarterback, I am backing Newton 9 times out of 10 over Stidham.
The Patriots aren't making the playoffs, but they feel that they can. And there are some crappy teams in the AFC that can just
implode,
free fall, and the Patriots sneak in there. They got these 2 games in LA, then they play the 3 division games. Right. Nobody knows the division like Bill Belichick. Like, they can easily split these games in LA and then win the 3 division games. And I don't think they're going to get there, but they're playing to get there. I prefer Newton, but you can't play worse than Newton did in that game. Like you said, I put it this way. I'm not betting anything until Sunday. I'm not saying go lock this in now, because you're not going to lose much value. If we get to Sunday and it's Stidham and then the Patriots are +3, then I'll take the Patriots +3 with Stidham. I'll do it that way. Like, one way or another, whatever the value is at kickoff, whatever the number is at kickoff, I think is going to be a fair number. And I would play it small, because I really do think that this could be a game to look at a second half play or an in-game play.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that's obviously something to worth keeping an eye on just in case there. But it doesn't feel like it's much of a difference, plugging in one of the two, but at least Newton has more of that rushing upside, although we haven't really seen it too much as of late. But I wouldn't feel great about backing Stidham by any means, no matter who he's facing. Even if it was the Broncos last week without a quarterback, I'd still have to sit there and question Stidham. Another play I'm on for this week, and I'm surprised at this line as well. The Saints and Falcons are set at 45.5 right now for the over-under. You look at the overall record for these teams hitting the over. The Saints are 7-4, one of the better teams in the league. But the under has hit in 4 straight games, 2 of those games with Taysom Hill. So the last 4 games, they've all hit the under. Falcons are not a great team hitting the over either. They're 5-6 overall. These teams just saw each other a couple of weeks ago on November 22nd. That was a 24-9 game, so not even close to hitting the over if that was what it was set at again. And then there's 2 good pass rushes on both sides. Hill was under pressure on 12 of his 30 dropbacks in that game. Matt Ryan was under pressure on 23 of his 45 dropbacks in that game. Both of these quarterbacks are going to be feeling an immense amount of pressure. Taysom Hill has been nothing impressive. It's been clear. I mean, maybe it was kind of more of like a, a mercy thing, but they loved handing off the ball last week over and over and over. Alvin Kamara has basically been wiped out of that offense.
Yeah.
Hill I think he has -2 receiving yards since Taysom Hill took over 2 weeks. So it's unbelievable. If anything, Latavius Murray has almost taken over the RB1 role in this offense just because he's been getting a lot of the carries. Now, Kamara is carrying the ball a decent amount, but that's not what you use Alvin Kamara for. He is that.
I don't know how you can't find ways to still get him like screen passes and get him
it's amazing.
In space no matter who's at quarterback, but here we are.
But here's the big reason why. Drew Brees is not a mobile quarterback at all. Taysom Hill is. Taysom Hill has 20 carries over the last 2 games. Like, he is running the ball. He's being selfish, and he's taking the ball himself and running with it. It's just something the Saints haven't had, kind of like with the Patriots. It's a dynamic to that offense that they haven't had for years. So they're kind of, it's the new shiny toy. Although Taysom Hill is, we just want him to go away. Like, nobody wants Taysom Hill here. Just please go away. But I like the under on this line a lot at 45.5. I still think there's some value there taking the under in this one. I just don't see a path where this is going to go over. I don't see the path for this to be in a shootout where both teams are just going up and down the field. Even when Taysom Hill is throwing the ball, he hasn't been efficient by any means. This game did open at 47.5, so it has gone down 2 points, but I still like the under in this one at 45.5. If it continues to go down, if you get to like 43.5, then, tapping the brakes a little bit there, but 45.5, I think, is still plenty that you can take the under on.
I agree with you. I like the under here. Like you said, it cashed a couple weeks ago. Now, let's not get carried away with, the 4 unders in a row for the Saints. I don't care about last week because last week they played like the Navy offense that could just run the ball out of the Wildcat for the entire game. The Broncos with whatever that guy's name was. That doesn't count. They scored 3 points. However, the 3 games before that, including this Atlanta game, New Orleans defense held those 3 opponents to 25 points total, which is legit. The Falcons aren't exactly lighting it up right now. They did against Vegas last week, a little bit of an outlier, fluky game, also involved some defensive scores. Atlanta's defense has been pretty good since the coaching change. That made a big difference. So, yeah, I'm with you. And especially divisional matchups for the second time late in the season. Those are spots that you look at unders. I like this one a lot.
All right. So you always give us at least one. You always love giving us these money line parlays.
I haven't been doing many this year,
which is a shame because, they at least, that big payout. Obviously parlays are sucker bets, which is why they're one of my favorites, but you do have one for this week. So let me hear for this week.
I do. So it's really like we're at just this weird, awful stage of the season, especially in a COVID season where you don't want to get too risky. And we know, it's not like the beginning of the season, like, are the Jets actually bad? Are the Jags beat the Colts? Are the Jags good? Are the Colts bad? We know who's good and bad now, and we know what they're playing for. So basically, fade the Jets, fade the Eagles, fade the Broncos to a degree, but more back the Chiefs. So we've got Vegas in a really good bounce back spot. They just got smashed by the Falcons. They're one of those teams that, the Patriots are thinking maybe they can chase down. They have a head-to-head win against for one of those wild card spots. Vegas really needs a win to try and get into the playoffs, and they get the Jets. They're going to win that game. The Jets are not going to win that game. -375, easy money line spot. Packers fighting for that 1 seed in the NFC.
Real quick before you go to, that just feels like such an overreaction. In what world are the Raiders only -375 against the Jets? Like, there's no way.
Yeah, I mean,
if
this could easily be like a minus
last week. Yeah, if they don't lose last week, I think that could honestly easily be doubled. I mean, Derek Carr has been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league so far this season. Now he goes against this putrid secondary, putrid defensive line to begin with. Like, there's no way if they don't lose last week, that line is how it is. That's a total overreaction.
Yep. So, I mean, that's a teaser piece as well. If you want to tease something, don't tease it with the Colts to +2.5 though. The Eagles stink. Their offense stinks. They should, even in the middle of this playoff hunt, they should be giving Jalen Hurts a look.
Yeah.
A guy that I liked a lot at Alabama, a guy that I liked at Oklahoma. He's poised. He's a dual threat. He's played in massive games before on big stages, so I don't think he's going to be shook at all coming into a situation like this, even with the division on the line. But if Carson Wentz stays in there, he's just going to keep getting sacked and keep getting intercepted. And even if it's Hurts' first start, maybe he does some encouraging stuff.
Right.
But he's not gonna win at Green Bay. Green Bay is going for that 1 seed, battling with the Saints. Aaron Rodgers is Mahomes is minus 400 now for MVP, but Rodgers is the plus 550 second place guy. He's having a great season. He's going to find Devontae Adams for another touchdown or two. Green Bay is going to win at home by at least a touchdown. And then the Sunday night game, you just throw the Chiefs in there.
Yeah.
Broncos are awful. Chiefs probably aren't losing again the rest of the way. That gets this money line parlay to minus 127. Pretty reasonable odds. I like it a lot. I think that's a fair spot that we can trust.
Real quick, I want to ask you your opinion on this one because I have this lean on the Eagles-Packers game, and I hate that I have it. I kind of don't hate the Eagles on the spread,
right?
Plus 8.5, just because the Packers are so bad against the run. Like, they are so incredibly bad against the run. So, like, this is a great, daily fantasy spot from Miles Sanders. Boston Scotsman kind of in the mix too as well. Not crazy about him, but just kind of thinking out loud here. I don't hate that spot for the Eagles, and I hate that I don't hate it. Just because it's back in the Eagles has been a disaster. Like, it's been a disaster. Like, they had that backdoor cover last week against the Seahawks with the Richard Rodgers, Hail Mary. Props to me for taking the anytime touchdown, but that's here and there. But I don't want to like that line, but every time I see it, I'm like, kind of want to play it.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna bet it, but I'm also not gonna bet Green Bay on the spread. But that's a game like, the Eagles get that miracle cover on Monday night. But that's why I'm backing Green Bay on the money line here. Like, we never thought that the Eagles were actually going to win that game, even though they covered. So I think this is going to be a similar situation where, Green Bay either wins by 10 and covers, or they win by 7 and the Eagles cover, but it's like a late touchdown that gets it there. The Packers are going to be in control of the game. So that's why I trust them on the money line here and don't trust the spread either way. I could really see this one going either way. And when it's like that, and you see what the Eagles did last week, I feel like the back door is going to be open in this game. The Eagles are going to be driving for a backdoor cover is how I feel this game ends.
All right, so that's going to pretty much wrap up for this week's bets. Of course, if you want to, do player props and stuff, Julian usually gives a lot of some of that info as well. DraftKings.com/playbook. He has his articles up throughout the week. I also have some articles that I put up as well. So definitely visit DraftKings.com/playbook later in the week, Friday, Saturday. All those will be up with some of our plays on that as well. But there's one section I know we wanted to touch on too as well. On the DraftKings Sportsbook, there's plenty of futures bets that you can look into as well. One of them is who is going to be the number 1 seed in both the AFC and the NFC. Steelers are currently the favorites in the AFC, minus 200. No surprise there, the undefeated Steelers. And then the Saints are actually even money right now to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. But one play that you actually like is taking the Chiefs at plus money. It's probably one of the only plus money other than the Super Bowl winner that you can take right now on the Chiefs. They're at plus 140, and then it's just not even close. Anybody after that, Bills, Titans, tied for third, 66-1. I mean, total long shots, obviously, but give us why you do like the Chiefs here at plus 140.
Well, here's what I need to figure out. I need to figure out what the tiebreaker is between the Chiefs and Steelers.
Okay.
What if they both go 15-1? Like, I'm actually asking you. Because I didn't fully I'm not done with my research here. It's just
good.
Chiefs, right before Chiefs plus 140 is a play that I'm interested in, and I'm still researching. Put it this way. I think the Chiefs are going to go 15-1. They're 2 touchdown favorites against the Broncos this week. Then they play the Dolphins, might be their hardest test at Miami, a game that Miami might need for its playoff life. At the Saints, likely without Drew Brees. Host the Falcons, and then host the Chargers. The Chiefs are favored in every game, but they're going to obviously be mostly heavily favored in all those. And I just think they're going to plow through. That's kind of what the Chiefs do. That's what they did last year. They pick up momentum and get into the playoffs. Get into the playoffs, obviously, with that momentum. The Steelers
kind of have a tough schedule.
I mean, they're going to beat Washington on Monday. You think?
Oh, no, hold on.
Hope it's not a trap spot going Wednesday afternoon football to Monday afternoon football.
See,
right?
I think that's actually the toughest game left on the schedule. Like that could literally be one of those games where it's like 20 points total scored.
Yeah, no, I mean, listening to Roethlisberger after that game yesterday, Wednesday, it didn't sound like he was happy with playing that game when it was played and now having to play this game when it's played. So like, it's not easy, but I mean, let's even say the Steelers are the better team. Obviously, let's say they win the game. Sure. Maybe the schedule just down the road catches up with them with all this movement. And it sounds like you kind of like Pittsburgh, I guess Washington there, which is like an 8.5 point spread. I think it's up on DK.
I do like Washington in this one. Like I've said it over and over again. I still think that they have one of the most underrated defenses in the league. I know the Steelers are very good, obviously, but you know they're having their issues. They have injuries that they're dealing with as well. Washington is one of those teams that everybody just continues to sleep on. It's like I know their offense isn't sexy and exciting, but they will stop the best defense. Some of the best offenses in the league. They're that good. They're good on the defensive line. They're very good in the secondary. So it's like those two teams clashing against each other. It's just one of those, you know, who ends up having the special team play that makes a difference. Like that's what it is to me. So if I'm thinking that's what it's going to come down to, why would you not like Washington at plus 8.5, which is what it is currently on the DraftKings Sportsbook? Like that's the number I think that Washington should be able to cover.
Don't hate it. So after Washington, we have Steelers have Sunday Night Football in Buffalo. Not an easy game. They do get the Bengals, who should be easy at this point. But then finish up with the Colts and then at the Browns, which is a game Cleveland could need to get into the playoffs or for seeding. Now, of course, Pittsburgh might need to go all out this year because with just one bye for the 1 seed, it's still going to be very important to get that bye. So it's very well a game that Pittsburgh needs. But I think that Pittsburgh is going to lose a game or two down the stretch. Whereas I think
they're playing 5 games within the span of 25 days.
Yep. So I think that plus 140 on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to go 15-1. I think the Steelers are going to go 14-2. And I think the Chiefs are going to get that 1 seed. I would feel more confident in it if I knew the Chiefs had the tiebreaker, and I do need to look into that. What if both teams go 15-1? Right. But I honestly think Pittsburgh is finishing 3-2 down the stretch here and going 14-2.
No, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, look, I mean, anytime you're getting the Chiefs at a plus money odds, you know, especially if it's to win to win the first seed in the conference. It's not like they don't have a favorable schedule. It's not like they don't have a favorable offense. I mean, look what they did to the Buccaneers. I know the Buccaneers defense has been kind of falling off the face of the earth as of late, but that was just ridiculous what we saw against them. What Tyreek Hill
the Bucs are just dumb. That was dumb.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup for Tyreek Hill, we knew was good to begin with, but like not that good. Like, not almost 300 receiving yards good, but that's just what they do. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like, I don't want to say he's kind of getting into that role more as the RB1, but he's looked really good over the past couple of weeks too as well in tough matchups. That game against the Buccaneers, I know the Buccaneers secondary has been bad, but their run defense is held up, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire still had a decent game in that one too as well. So I mean, there's just so many ways that they can beat you, and they're going to get Sammy Watkins back, which isn't a huge difference maker, but just another body on the field that you have to worry about, because when he's on the field, Patrick Mahomes likes to go to him whether you like it or not. Like he does like going to Sammy Watkins. So no, I don't hate it. Obviously look into that tiebreaker to see if that makes a difference or not, but at the odds that you're getting right now, it's certainly a value.
I mean, just real quickly, one other thing that might not be affected, like if Pittsburgh loses a game, is that going to necessarily move Kansas City's Super Bowl odds? Probably not, but it does give them an inside track at that bye, which we know is massive historically. So like if Pittsburgh were to lose a game along the way, that would be a time that I would look to bet Kansas City to win the Super Bowl. And obviously the AFC is looking stronger than the NFC. So rather than to win the AFC, I would just bet them to win the Super Bowl at that point.
And like I mentioned too, the number of games that they're playing in the short amount of time is not in their favor. That's definitely a detriment too, where the Chiefs have just been coasting, knock on wood that it stays that way because of COVID and everything, but they've been cruising. They really haven't had to deal with any of those issues. We're going to wrap up the show today. I know you have a bunch of college basketball plays that you want to get into over the course of the next, week and a half? Is that what we
close
here?
Yep. We're going through Tuesday. I'm giving the podcast, this is called a shelf life, Steve. So people can keep watching this podcast and get tremendous bets to play on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Thank you so much.
I'm doing us a favor here.
What a favor.
So,
what a guy.
Some great games last night, Wednesday night, if you watched. So we saw Gonzaga, scary injury to Jalen Suggs, number 6 prospect in the country, comes to Gonzaga. He's looked fantastic so far. It looked like he tore his Achilles last night. Then not only do we see him running around the tunnel, he checks back into the game. Gonzaga wins against West Virginia, back from down 9 or so. And then we see Baylor playing neck and neck with Illinois, a really good top 5 team, and then just pull away in the last 10 minutes and dominate. Best 2 teams in the country, looked really good. My college basketball best bets article, we parlayed Zags and Baylor on the money line. We hit that. Now these 2 teams stay in Indy, match up on Saturday afternoon, number 1 and number 2. This is pretty much as big as it gets. If this was the national championship game, nobody would be surprised. And we're getting it on the first Saturday in December. Pretty cool game to watch regardless, but Baylor's really good. They're going to do a lot defensively to slow Gonzaga, but Gonzaga, assuming Suggs is good, is just way too deep. Their 6th man is Andrew Nemhard, a guard from Florida. He started the last 2 years at Florida and was Florida's best player, and he's Gonzaga's 6th man. Zags are sitting at 2.5 point favorites on DK Sportsbook. This is going to be a grind, but I'm leaning to the Zags there. I think that's going to be a play. To Sunday, 1:00 game. Everybody's going to be watching football. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Villanova, Texas. We saw Villanova go down already to Virginia Tech. I like Virginia Tech a lot. They're a good team. But Texas is right up there in Ken Palm with Nova. Similarly ranked team in a lot of metrics. They returned the Longhorns 99% of minutes played from last year. So that's everybody. Every single player returned except for a couple of walk-on seniors that got a couple of minutes. They're gone. They brought in some guys in the transfer market. I think Texas is live to win this game outright, but plus 5.5 on DK. I like that a lot. Then we got Super Tuesday. Great Super Tuesday next week, December 8th. Creighton against Kansas, North Carolina against Iowa, Illinois against Duke. Nothing on Creighton, Kansas for me yet, but I like the dogs in those 2 big later games.
Oh.
Luke Garza is tremendous, but I think UNC has some upper-class bigs that can deal with him a little bit. I think Iowa might be a little overrated because of the star power of Garza, not much behind him. UNC plus 4.5 I like in that game. We'll see. This is Tuesday, so these lines are going to move around. We'll get some different feels. I'll have articles, so pay attention for what numbers we're actually going to play. But I like UNC there, plus 4.5 against Iowa. Duke, great start against Michigan State and then faded. That was at Cameron Indoor as well, so somewhat of a home game for Duke. And Michigan State looked fantastic, pulled away, blew them out in the second half. I think Illinois played Baylor really tough. Baylor's a much better team than Duke. So I think Illinois is live to win this game as well at plus 140, but plus 3.5 points. I like a lot there for the Fighting Illini. So that's college hoops, big games that get us through Tuesday.
If you do take those 2 dogs and parlay them together, it's plus 536, by the way, if you feel that good about them.
That's UNC to win the game.
Yep.
I like the points there more. I don't mind that. What I would maybe consider, and this is probably even a bigger payout, is Texas money line on Sunday parlayed with Illinois money line on Tuesday.
That is plus 608 for that one.
There you go. Throw $20 there, win 120. You can thank me later. I'll tweet out my Venmo.
$20 would net you 141.60 in total. Your total
big money,
obviously. Not too shabby. All right, so that is going to do it for this week's edition of the Panel Beat Podcast. We'll be back with you for week 14 of the NFL. For Julian Edlow, I'm Steve Buchanan. We'll catch you next week.